Guys, I swear it's been almost an hour since I started trying to make this video, and it's just been me sitting down and basically repeating myself. And I guess that works as kind of like a warm-up exercise, but I'm going to try to do this in one take now. Marble Hornets is an ARG. You know that, or you wouldn't be watching this video. Hopefully, the wind just picked up. Sorry about that. This is a comic book tie-in with this YouTube ARG. The first question, of course, is why would you make that? Why would you take this super hyper-realistic piece of media and tie it in with a comic book, which requires a pretty open mind to be immersed into? You know, it takes a certain kind of person really to just enjoy comic books to begin with, but especially to get really into it and for that to work in the horror genre. I can't really imagine how a graphic novel can really scare someone unless, you know, there's some really sickening plot points or something, or there's very shocking twists. Unless you're like that guy Junji Ito, who makes the really nice like horror artwork. Even then, though, can you really do much more than just look at it on the page and be like, oh wow, that's like scary and messed up. Wow. So right off the bat, maybe it's not a good idea to make a Marble Hornets comic book. That's not for me to say. And additionally, I'm a big fan of ideas, of bad ideas that are executed very well. I think some examples of that are SpongeBob SquarePants. Why did you make a movie about a sponge underwater? It's not the type of sponge that grows underwater. It's like a dish sponge. It's like a dishwasher sponge. Why did you make Super Mario Bros. 3? None of these pieces fit together, except that they do. Because Super Mario Bros. Is like the most beloved video game franchise ever. SpongeBob is like everyone's favorite cartoon. It works because it works. And that kind of sets me up to say that there are certain inexplicable things in media that just make things work or make them not work. And I think Marble Hornets, the comic book, is full of little inexplicable things that make it not work. I don't have things that I really like about the comic. I have things that I can tolerate and appreciate as a separate piece, you know, but not in the context of what it is. For example, the artwork in this comic is pretty good. It's pretty good. It's also really similar to Calvin and Hobbes. I'd really love to put some watercolors that Bill Watterson did for Calvin and Hobbes next to some of the backgrounds of the foliage in Marble Hornets, the comic book. That would be okay for anything else, but this is a horror comic book, and it just doesn't work for me. I'm not saying that they absolutely should have gone for something like some of that Junji Ito stuff, or I remember there being a graphic novel about Portal that if it had that kind of art style, it would be much more suited for the kind of story that Marble Hornets has turned out to be so far. This is a connected continuation of the story. Marble Hornets, the show, is referenced in this comic book as if the comic book was taking place in real life. So people kind of accept that it's an ARG, it's a fictional universe. That is extremely weird and off-putting, especially the way it's handled, because it's mentioned in kind of a very passing and expositional fashion. It's like going from hyper-realistic ARG to heroic bloodshed John Woo movie where people say things that people do not say. I don't know how else to put it. Anyway, obviously this comic book isn't going for realism. It's okay. It's not the end of the world, right? If it's good, it's good. It's not good, unfortunately, for different reasons. and a lot of them are very hard to describe. The reason it's hard to describe is because I'm talking about a comic book continuation of an ARG from 2008. It's weird. It's bizarre. It's getting to be too strange for me to really appreciate as just a story. The fact that there is a Marble Hornets comic book, really, I don't think it can be anything more than a novelty. And if it were to be more than that, it would take someone of extreme talent and understanding of both mediums, of film and comic book, to make the transition. And that's just not there. The scary parts of the book are not scary. They're not original either, which I'd like to point out that I think the series was very original. So far, comic book does not have any of the things that I like about Marble Hornets. I respect the fact that it's a different medium. It doesn't work for me. There is a version of the comic book that I was able to read that has Troy Wagner and the artist, I forget their name, kind of taking notes on the side about what's going on in the comic book, kind of like a director's commentary kind of thing. It's the most uninsightful thing I've ever seen. They're just like making jokes and like, oh, I named this character after my cat. Smiley face, literally a smiley face written on the page. It offers. I know I'm not entitled an explanation to why there's a Marble Hornets comic, but I was kind of hoping maybe I would get some insight from that as to why this project exists. I didn't. I don't want to read the comic again, ever. I think that's the end of the review. I don't want to read it. I don't want to go back to it.